Hey everybody, it's your friend James Shaw. Thanks so much for joining us. We're glad you're here. We are talking to elite people who do elite things. That's what we do every week inside Pivot Shift Ahead. And I'm excited to have a friend, but also a super smart dude with us, Hudson Warren. Hey Hudson, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thank you so much for jumping on and doing this with us. We're going to talk about schedule, which you've mastered through just your life, right? You're married, you got 82 children or six.
Same
And
thing.
then you're teaching and coaching and traveling and running a team and all the different things, and you've had to figure out how to run a schedule. It's a major challenge for many agents, so you're going to help them. But will you tell everybody kind of who you are, where you are, what you do, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, no, I'd love to. So, yeah, Hudson Warren. I'm first and foremost an agent. I still produce. I still sling the houses, just like most of the people watching this. And I lead a team called the HomeWise team. I'm in Tampa, near James, and we cover everything from Tampa down to like Naples and Marco Island. And they sell most of the houses. I just sell some of them. And I am a maps coach focused on bold, which is super, super fun. And that's probably my number one thing, except I don't have just one thing. I'm also a kind of an elevated PC coach for my market center group. I do some achievement coaching and help people grow from capping to megas. And God, what else? I'm a former team leader. I have 82 children. I'm married. We're constantly renovating a house or selling one and buying another thing to polish. And yeah, life's crazy. And so I've had the opportunity to really master schedule.
Well, yeah, you have a lot going on, and it's been fun. I've known you a long time, since before the six kids and before the marriage and
Yeah,
before being a team leader and before being a bold coach. When you were a buyer agent on a team when I met you, and to
true
watch what
story.
you, yeah, watch what you have built over that time has been really cool to see. And we preach it all the time in here: follow a schedule, get consistent, do the right things, and it's simple, not easy.
Hmm.
So let's chunk it down for them because you've kind of figured it out. And I guess the first thing would be, when it comes to a schedule, is there like a hierarchy in scheduling, like what comes first and what order things go in? Because, like I said, you have a lot going on.
So yeah, I think I don't know, there's a lot of answers to that question. I think first of all, if you're like me and you have more than one world spinning around at one time, you've really got to get purposeful with what even gets near your schedule. You've really got to delineate what are the money making activities, what are the vital activities, and what's the time wasting stuff, or what's the stuff that can be pushed off till a month where things aren't so crazy. Like we have to stop treating every task like they're equal, because it's just not the truth. And I will say hierarchy wise is personal stuff. Like all the people that are going to watch this, we all know that you got into real estate because you want freedom and flexibility and wealth. And yet most people in our industry never even get close to wealth because they come in real hyper focused on freedom and flexibility and their version of what that is. And I feel like what I've learned is that having a schedule that tells me what to do, that is freedom, because I don't have to worry and I don't have to wonder. So for me, it's family first. I have no interest in making a ton of money if I'm not also going to have the opportunity to enjoy my family, enjoy my friends, enjoy my life. So hierarchy wise, it starts there. And then with the business stuff, it really is like what actually what has to happen. That goes on the schedule. All the other stuff can wait. It, it really is that simple. I think we make ourselves busy in order to feel like we've accomplished something, and it's just a vicious cycle.
Yeah. All right. So personal world first, that would be time off. That would be, getting your kids to all the different things they need to do. You and your husband need to hang out and do stuff together. I mean, so
Yeah.
you've got to have all of that. But you're putting that in, and we've heard Gary say this forever, but you're doing it. You're putting that in first.
Yeah, I put that in first, and then I choose to work a typical work week. I don't, with exceptions here and there. Like I'm not a robot. Life is not perfect. It's
Right.
it's hard to be completely black and white.
Correct.
And yet, with very few exceptions, I don't work nights. I don't work weekends, and I fit my work into about a 40-hour week, and that's with the multiple jobs. That's how I desire for my life to look like. Now, for some of you, you like working 8-hour weeks. If you actually like it, good for you.
Hmm.
If you don't do it. And so, yeah, no, it's the personal stuff goes in the schedule. I choose to build my business around my life and not the other way around.
Okay, but that's a hard concept for people, Hudson. Have you always been like that? What changed for you to
No.
finally put that first? Like, where did you get to the space that you went, time out? The business will work itself out, but I've got to put my personal life and make it a priority.
So 2019, I'd been 5 years. I won't give a big story. I started real estate in another state. I moved here and started over. I'd been 5 years in Florida and I was crushing it, to be honest. I mean, I was making a ton of money. I was, it was really, really awesome. I'd met my husband. We had gotten together. We adopted our first kids, our first, 100. And I was making a ton of money. I ended up making seven figures that year. And that was the first time that had ever happened. And I hated it. I was miserable. I was working all the time. I was distracted all the time. I was never actually where my feet were. And I was just, it didn't matter. I mean, all that money coming in does not help your stress level. And I just was so unhappy. And it was really, I'm really blessed to have had a powerful conversation one day with another bold coach who's now one of my closest friends, Amber Rutherford. You know her well. And I just kind of unloaded on her, and she to me was an embodiment of just like, gosh, her life just seems so perfect.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, how do you I just kind of unloaded on her, and she just kind of looked at me. She's like, Hudson, if it doesn't bring me joy, I just don't do it. So it becomes really easy to run my schedule, and she caused me to think of things differently. And so I have a filter that I run my decisions through. It's not like it's in my head, and yet it's a filter. And when I have to say yes or no to something, it is, does it bring me joy? Does it bring me income? Or does it bring me wealth? If I can't say yes to one of those three things, it's a no. It's a hard no. It's a no I don't feel guilty about. It's a no that I've never had anybody upset at me about. It's easy. And if it says yes to one, and if it says yes to more than one, then it gets higher priority. And yet, if it's not going to bring joy or happiness, if it's not going to bring me wealth, bring me income, I don't need to do it. And I guess my message to anybody watching this is, you might have a slightly different filter, and yet you can still do that. Like, I coach agents, you coach agents. Like, there are so many things you do that are doing nothing for you. You're not going anywhere with them. You have time to live how you want to live. You're just not making the best choices, and you can fix that. I've been there. Like, you can fix it. You just got to figure out what your thing is. What is going to be your qualifier for what you choose makes sense to go into your schedule, or what is a no?
Yep. Well, it's figure out your filter. You figured out yours. Others
Yeah.
can figure out theirs. And if you don't have a filter to look through, then other people get to determine what your schedule looks like, and then you bitch and moan about it because you're not happy and not living the life you want. All right, so let's give some tips and tricks, if you will, or strategies really about time blocking, because I know I need a time block. I got a time block, put it on my schedule, doesn't exist. Like, the stuff that we teach has kind of become cliche at this point. So let's get into
Yeah.
strategy about what does time blocking really look like?
Yeah. So, and this is assuming that all of y'all, like, I'm assuming most of you people realize the one thing scheduling, right? Like, look, time off, lead gen time, weekly planning. Cool, we're good. Outside of that, here's some pitfalls, right? I think a lot of people, I tend to think most of us function in extremes, whether we realize we're doing it or not. And so you go from being a whirling dervish to you're going to go out there and you're going to start following a schedule. What I see happening all the time is people schedule every second of their day.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there is no white space. There is no room for mistakes. There is no room to go to the bathroom. It's wild, right? Like, you not everything needs to be on your schedule. The most important things need to be on your schedule. So you've got to get good at prioritizing things. You're going to have white space. You're going to have opportunity to do the other stuff if you really need to or want to, as long as you leave yourself some room for error. And life, really, it's not error, it's life. So don't over schedule. It's a huge harm. The other thing is that we're so used to people pleasing. A big one for me, there's such a silly little life changer though. You call me about something, if the time doesn't work for me, my simple response will always be, you know what, I've got an appointment then. So what about this or that? I'm going to give them two options. I, I'm not going to miss my kid's game. I'm not going to miss date night. I'm not going to miss my lead gen time. I'm not going to miss a nap if I want to take a nap. Whatever it is, like, I have an appointment at that time, because people respect that. I think what we have to remember is that as much as people may love you, when it's a business relationship, they don't care about your personal life in that moment. They want what they want and they want it now. And yet they do understand professional speak. So everything gets to be an appointment, or else you're just gonna mess yourself up, and it's not fun. It's not fun to constantly rearrange things. So I think those are probably two of the biggest things that come up for me that really, really help. Like if my schedule starts to look too full, I'm going to pump the brakes for a minute and reevaluate and see if they've got stuff on there that just doesn't need to be there or that can be pushed because it's not time sensitive. And I have an appointment is gospel to me. Also, I don't let people suggest times. I mean, unless it's a doctor or something and I don't have an option, right? Like I'm going to lead with, okay, well, let's talk about this at this or that. Hey, I'm free at this or that. I'm going to lead because nobody cares. And then at least I keep control. So those are some of the big things for me.
It reminds me of Ben Hardy and 10x is easier than
Yeah.
2x. Have you read that book?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really good book. He talks about, getting really on purpose with what should be in your schedule and what shouldn't. And once you have clarity around that, it becomes a lot easier to say no to things that don't fit in alignment with what's important to you. So we've had Ben Hardy on Inspire. He's great. And I'd recommend that book, 10x easier than 2x, to anybody. We don't have an infinite amount of time. We've got a limited
No,
amount
we
of time
don't.
and a lot of stuff to do in it. So it's about, I don't know, being on purpose with purpose about how you fill it. But again, easier said than done, right?
Well, I think it's easier said than done unless you are clear. As you mentioned, I think why do we say yes to things we shouldn't? It's either because we don't know what we should be doing and we want to feel accomplished, or it's a guilt factor, right? Because we all want to please other people. Like even that person that cut you off that you think like we function that way. Like we want to please people. And so we tend to just say yes to things. It's easy to do that when we don't actually have clarity on what we want our life to look like. For me, it was really, really hitting a break point, and I certainly think that one could do this without hitting a break point, right? Like I had to figure out the clarity. I used to say yes to things because I didn't want to feel bad. I don't feel bad when I say no anymore. I really don't, because I know it's for good reason. And if anybody gets upset with me, I'll usually explain it to them, and then it's fine. Like I think it all comes down to clarity on who you desire to be and where you desire to go, and then staying intentional. It's really easy to get off track. And one off track day is not a big deal. 10, now you're in a spiral. So sitting there and really reevaluating on a regular basis for me, it's helpful. Like I don't spend I'm really big on working smarter rather than harder. And to me, working smarter is I am constantly looking at my schedule. I am constantly reevaluating what's on it because I don't even really want to work 40 hours. Like I'm not ashamed to say it. Like I don't consider myself lazy. I just got a life that I want to live.
Yeah.
So I'm constantly reevaluating things and seeing where I can trim and what I can replace and what I can leverage out. So yeah, easier said than done. And yet at the end of the day, it is kind of easy to do it. It's a choice. You have to decide how you want to live.
It's easier said than done until you start doing it, and then once you start doing it, it becomes who you are, and that's the life you live. The decision I've made is I like to be done with my day by like 3 or 3:30, and I don't want to work on Friday. And that's ultimately it's because I have a 12-year-old and she gets out of school at like 4 o'clock, and so I like to go pick her up. And then on Fridays, my wife works during the school year. She works until about 1 o'clock. Then she's home. I like spending Friday afternoons with her and then go pick up Naomi and stuff like that. That's how I choose to do it. Now, I don't mind getting up early. So that's why I do the pivot call. We start that at
Right.
7:30 in the morning. So I'm working a full day, if you want to put it in air quotes, but no Fridays. I shouldn't say no Fridays, very few Fridays,
Very
and
few.
try really hard not to do stuff after 3. And I'll tell you, Hudson, when I started doing this, I felt there were days that I'm like, okay, I'm done. It's 3 o'clock, but I'm really supposed to not be done because most people are working until 5 or 6. And so really I should probably be doing other things. And I would fill it with stuff like I would feel guilty. I still sometimes feel guilty. If I'm taking a Friday off, and by off, it doesn't mean I'm not available. I'm responding to people's emails and actively engaged in our Facebook group and stuff, but I'm not sitting down and like doing work. There's Fridays I feel like, what, am I being lazy? Like this comes up in mind, but no, this is how I've chosen to run my world, and it's working. We have a profitable business and a successful team, and I don't know. I think we can do it. It just takes some. It's a decision, and then it takes some mental adjustment that you don't have to operate like the rest of the world does.
Well, this is what's so interesting, right? Excuse me. We all got into this business for this. We all wanted this. And yet you get into it, you get busy, you get scared, market goes down, whatever happens. And all of a sudden you hear the conversation that we're having, and your mind is telling you, no, that's what you can't do that. That's wild. No, that's why you got your license in the first place. So it's okay to go back to why you got your license. Like let's not live like everybody else. And in fact, let's show the world that they don't have to either, that they can do big things.
That's really good. And then by the way, if the business slips or you're behind goal, then yeah, you got to go extreme and work a little bit more than you want, but it's not permanent, it's temporary. I'm curious about what you use to keep track of your schedule because like I mean you got 6 kids that are involved in stuff and things to do. Like I got one and I have a wife, so we who's picking up Naomi and who's taking her to dance. Like that's it for us. I don't have to
Yeah.
organize it all out, and we don't need a spreadsheet to figure out how the driving around Tampa Bay situation is going to work. But so I'm curious about what's your system around that for you and your husband to track what's going on in personal world and in the business, or using a paper system, a calendar system, an online system, a spreadsheet. What do you do?
It's real fancy. It's called Google Calendar, and that's it. I want to be a paper calendar person. I think it's cooler. It's just not, it's not for me. So I'm a electronic calendar person, and we've got, I think my calendar would freak out most people because there's a lot of shared calendars in there. I know the color code, so it's fine because I've got the family stuff, and then I've got stuff that's shared with Brian. I've got stuff that's shared with my mother-in-law because she is our nanny, she's our kid help, you know. So, but it's just but it is, again, it's simple. It's just using a system. So like if you're not used to using a calendar at all, your Achilles heel in the beginning might simply be that you've just got to get used to it. Stop relying on this because it's not perfect, and start putting stuff in that you think you don't need it. Another reason to leave the white space, right? Like I know that people watching this have forgotten about listing appointments and buyer appointments before. Like those got to go in your schedule. You can't do that in advance though, which is why you cannot overschedule yourself. You got to have only the most important things in there and leave space for the things that just straight up need reminders so that our humanness does not get in the way. Yeah, so it's all electronic for me. And yet I know people that are paper and that's their religion. And
Yeah.
I don't think it's wrong either way. You got to find what works for you. So if you're not used to using a calendar, you might be testing out a few different kinds to see what really works for you.
Yeah. The other thing that's sticking out to me is you need to show up for the blocks you put in. And it's easy to get
Oh
distracted.
yeah.
If we're saying it's personal world first, then your lead gen, and then your planning time, boy, we better show up for those time blocks.
Well, yeah, I mean, so my kind of, I mean, I joke about it, except it really is true. Like, my calendar is my boss. I'm self-employed. My calendar is my boss. So I got to make sure that I perform for my boss in a manner that will not get me fired.
Hmm.
So yeah, you got to show up. You might mess up once in a while. That's okay. If you're a good employee, your boss is not going to fire you for one little thing here and there. And you got to show up at a high level. And I do want to piggyback on something you said earlier, because again, I think a lot of us have perfectionist mentalities. When I tell you that I don't work nights and weekends, I'm very similar to you. Like, I'm an A-type communicator. I don't like notifications. I will respond to you at night. Like, it's not going to consume my world though. And my kids don't think that I look like this. Like, I do put it down sometimes. Like, so it's not like I literally shut the world off. I'm just not actively engaging. It's just, hey, I've got time. I'm going to answer this person because I can do it now, or I can do it Monday. This is easier. So, again, not finding what works for you. What do you consider, talking about time off? What do you consider time off? Is it for you completely unplugging? Okay, great. Well, then build it that way. If it's not, don't sit there and think, oh gosh, I work all the time. Like, it's not that big a deal to go, it's okay.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Final thoughts,
Yeah.
final advice you want to share?
Just that just do something. If you are struggling with any type of balance, counterbalance, if you're struggling with your schedule, if you're starting to feel burnout is real.
Yeah.
And the honest truth is, I know it's different in different parts of the country, and yet overall, we are having to work harder to make the money we want to make right now. And you've got to take care of yourself. So don't let yourself get to burnout. Don't let yourself have a year like I did in 2019, where I was ready to burn it all to the ground and walk away from things. Like, don't get there. Take the time now to take stock of who you desire to be and how you desire to live, and build a plan around it. And if you can't do it on your own, get with someone you trust, get with a mentor, get with a coach, have somebody help you. I promise the way that you want to live and the goals that you want to achieve, you can intertwine them. We just don't take the time to do it because we like to fly by the seat of our pants. It's more fun on the other side. Scheduling is freedom. I know it sounds weird. I promise you, scheduling is freedom.
True story. Hudson, thanks for joining us. Appreciate you very much.
I appreciate you. Take care.